I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know why it's going to work. But with Lane Kiffin, how he uses the portal.
But everything you just said about Arch Manning needing to prove himself, the same could be said about Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. I mean, how much do we really know? We were having that conversation. So I just wonder if a lot of this around the country is just a backlash to the hype.
The season still feels like it's forever away, but that doesn't mean that we can't do a power ranking by each conference. We already did our preseason, post-spring college football top 25 with our buddy Andy Staples from On3. So we thought, what the hell? Let's break it down conference by conference, but we're only going to do the top 8. And who better to join us than another one of On3 Sports members, our buddy JD PicKell.
JD, welcome.
So welcome to the dojo.
Dude, I feel like royalty walking in here. I get in here, they say, hair and makeup will see you. I say, thank goodness. Went from like a 6 to an 8.5. Like, I'm feeling good, boys. I'm used to be here.
You're going to get knighted when you leave, too.
Yeah,
the
Prince of Portugal's here. He's waiting outside. He's going, oh, man, I can't wait.
I can't wait.
But before we get into this, because like I said, we're going to do the top 8. We're going to go from 8 to 1. Want to set a couple parameters or some criteria to see what y'all think. I don't want to, and again, we can change it if y'all want. You'll know how we do it here. We can mix it up. Do we want to do it to where on one coin it's, hey, what your schedule lends, how good you are compared to your schedule? Or what I think we should do is just the top 8 teams. So like, for example, even though Florida's schedule is incredibly tough, screw it, forget about the schedule. If they're a top 8 team, they're a top 8 team. Is that cool with everybody here?
So
or
not where they'll finish.
Not where they'll finish, just right now. And again, it can change. It will change. We'll go through a fall camp, do all that stuff. Somebody will get kicked off. Somebody will win a job we didn't think or whatever. But getting it to a point where it's like, regardless of schedule, where it stands right now, who we think are the top 8 teams.
So we're just going off looks. We don't need to know how good you can cook.
No, just looks. Okay. I don't even need to know your personality. It's just how you're looking, whether you're going to be able to hop in the 4Runner. Well, not anymore. I'm a married man, but and so are 2 other guys right here on this stage, and one's in a relationship. But that's neither here nor there. So let's start with number 8, and it needs to be consensus. So 3 out of the 4, right? Need to agree. We're not all going to have the exact same one, but 3 out of the 4 need to agree that, all right, this is where they need to be. So number 8, David Cone.
Why is it starting with
former Michigan quarterback? Because you're not the SEC guy here, right? You're not the SEC guy, all right? So we're very cordial, all right? So coming from Big Ten country, which, dude, you're from Statesboro, Georgia. What are we talking about here? You are an SEC guy. You just went to play at Michigan.
Yes.
But people consider you the Big Ten guy. All right, number 8, who do you think?
I have Tennessee written down.
You have Tennessee written in number 8.
I have Tennessee written down.
How far back without Nico, how far did they drop in your mind?
That's a great question. That's what I was going to ask you when you showed up, and that's what we've been asking a lot of people. How much further back do you rank Tennessee now that they've lost Nico Iamaleava? Even there's a lot of Tennessee fans I've talked to just this past weekend at the cigar bar who are taking the mentality of, we're better off without him. We're even better now, and they're going to be offended by being at 8. I mean, I don't know what the answer to that question is.
It's kind of like whenever, you and your ex break up and you have all this excitement about what you can be. You're like, you know what, actually, without them, I'm better. Like, I feel better. I'm working out more. I'm eating better. I got a better job.
So how often is that the case, though?
Yeah. Is this that case, or was she just super hot?
You can't say that while you have your Xbox headset.
It's tough because you do look at it in reverse and you're like, man, was Nico out there winning games for Tennessee? You talk yourself into it. Like the Bama game, you could talk yourself into, well, hey, he kind of made a few throws here that changed the complexion of things. I think Tennessee at 8 is pretty fair, to be real with you, Cone. I think what Joey Aguilar can be for them excites me just as much as what I would think Nico could be for them this year.
Okay, I'll tell you guys right now, I had Auburn at 8.
Okay.
I had Auburn at 8. Questions around Jackson Arnold. I'm worried about the defense a little bit. We talked about that with Cole Kublik. But the offensive line is deep. But I can see Tennessee. The question is that supporting cast around Joey Aguilar or Merck Slinger, or hell, it may be me by the time we end up doing this. Is it good enough to carry Tennessee the way that they did last year? You lose Pierce, you lose some other pieces. I think that's the question. But I do think Heupel's system behooves a quarterback coming in late because so much of it is pre-snap. I call it, it's quick addition. It's not trigonometry. It's not even algebra in my case. It's just quick math and addition. So is the supporting cast with Tennessee good enough to put them in the 8th spot? Because I can be talked into that.
Did you have them in the top 8 at all?
I had them at 9. I had them at 9, right out of, they're my first team out of the top 8. But again, I can be talked into putting them at 8 and maybe leaving all.
I'm okay with putting Tennessee there. I have Texas A&M there, sitting at 8 because I do think Marcel Reed comes back another year. Your offensive line might have a couple of day one guys going to the draft next year. You got a good linebacker core. I do think when it comes to the defense, they went heavy in the portal this year. 14 guys in the portal. I do think defense, they were always known to get in the backfield. You lost some D-line pieces. I think Elko knows how to replace that. And Elko, as a coach, I think they're getting better and better. Just like everybody says, every single year, guys, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
1 year away.
Well, I have Texas A&M at 7.
I have Texas A&M at 7.
And for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, I mean, Mike Elko had this program a single game away from competing in the SEC championship a year ago, and Marcel Reed did a lot of great things. The question is, can he do it over the course of an entire season?
I love Marcel Reed, dude.
Why doesn't he get talked about as much as Lenore Sellers or DJ Lagway? Like, you see what he did last year. He came in, dude just won.
I think everyone's scared to get burned again. I think everyone sees A&M, and every single year in the College Station bubble, they're like, this is the year. This is the year we do it. And I've transparently been pretty off that train until this year. Marcel Reed's a big part of that. Like Colin Klein, what he was as a player. Like, I think he wants to call the offense to a running quarterback.
Yeah.
And Connor Wegman might be a 5-star. He might be awesome at Houston, but like it wasn't fitting what he wanted to do offensively. And so I love the Marcel Reed psychopath effect, man. Like when he stepped in the swamp against Florida and didn't flinch.
Oh, no fear.
I was like, okay, he's different. He's wired a little bit different. So I'm excited about him. I like A&M a lot.
I think you can maybe make that argument, but I mean, the 6 ahead, I mean, that's what makes this beautiful. But you have them at 7. I have them at 7. You're good with them at 7?
I have Ole Miss at 8.
You have Ole Miss.
I have Ole Miss.
At 8.
I have Tennessee at 7. If we want to switch the conversation,
I'm a little worried about Ole Miss. The reason, and again, I think Austin Simmons showed flashes in a big time moment against Georgia. You watch the guy. You put his ass on the mound, he can deliver for you. I'm actually more worried about Ole Miss's the losses on the line of scrimmage. Not that they haven't tried to address that, but I think people forget that the reason that Ole Miss made such a big jump wasn't just because Jackson Dart is an absolute savage, and we got a lot of respect from him here. But Ole Miss moved up. They went from in the suburbs to an estate with a pool and a gate, and almost made the college football playoff. Should have if they beat Kentucky because of what they did on the line of scrimmage. Can they recreate that around a brand new quarterback who's still going to take some lumps? That's why I had them left off the list.
For me, it's a Lane Kiffin bet with them at 8. Yeah. Like it's one of those things where I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know why it's going to work. But with Lane Kiffin, how he uses the portal, the handpicking of Austin Simmons from the high school level, and that Mona Lisa drive we all saw against Georgia, which just makes you feel good when you watch it back. To me, there's a lot of it. Like I can't totally explain it, but when I see it on the field on Saturdays, I think it'll be a top 8 product. How's that for analysis?
That's fair enough, but also the same sentence that you just said about Texas A&M, where there's, inside that bubble, there's a lot of excitement, and this is going to be the year, and things are going to change, and we're going to get over that hump. The same can be said about Lane Kiffin, right, too? I mean, even a season ago, when he finally gets over the hump in some of the biggest games, you're losing to Kentucky at home, and then you're right back where you started.
With a favorable schedule, too.
And returning the all-time leading passer in program history.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's what makes, again, the openness of the SEC from the top to the middle. We didn't go past 8 because I don't want to sit here and no disrespect to Mississippi State or Kentucky, but with Calzada at Kentucky, I know Blake Shapen's coming back in Mississippi State. I just don't think they have enough around them. But you're good with A&M at 7?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's 3 out of the 4. So we'll go A&M at 7. Cool. Let's move on to 6. JD, in your mind, what's the first team when I say 6 that pops into your mind here?
I got the Florida Gators, boys.
I don't think that's
I got the
crazy.
Florida Gators, boys. Top 20 returning production. Billy Napier got his quarterback in DJ Lagway. It is so interesting to me how they chose to address the spring portal and didn't touch the wide receiver position at all. Like, that to me says we feel great about Sturdivant. We feel great about Dallas Wilson, who's setting like spring game records. If that means anything at all, he seems just different.
Yeah, Eugene's nasty. We all know that.
Playing in the slot this year. Like, there's so many things where I'm like, okay, I think Billy Napier, one thing that gets maybe under talked about with him, I think he's such a good evaluator. We see guys go from whether it's Louisiana or whether it's Florida, go to the combine, tear it up. Like Elijah Badger, Shamir DK. So I think the fact they didn't go to the spring portal for receivers says they feel good there. I think we all feel good about Lagway. I think the defense with the I feel good about
what's
Lagway.
the update with the health?
That's a fair question.
That's all
Yeah.
I'm talking
That's
about.
a fair question.
The shoulder?
Super fair
Well,
question.
it was 2 injuries, right?
Yeah,
and a shoulder and a lower body injury as well?
lower body deal. Yeah.
I'm gonna go the optimist route of he's back, and I think just because of the information that we're not inside the room in the training room, and they're not going to tell us anyway, and they shouldn't. I'm gonna go off the premise of ranking them here because I'm going to believe that DJ Lagway is going to be healthy. And again, I do want to point out at the beginning, we're not saying this is where they're going to finish. We're not taking into account the schedule. We are looking at the team. And I think defensively, Blaine, you could see Florida continue to take steps forward because I always am going to believe that Florida's got good enough athletes on the defensive side to at least not be such a crazy liability as we've seen LSU here in the past recently. Which
do they have the depth on the defensive?
That's going to be the question on the defensive line.
I mean, you
too.
lose Pyburn to LSU, who's an edge player who's pretty good, which is somewhat of a big loss. But you can talk about the defense stuff. We mentioned all these offensive players, DJ Lagway, the receiver room, but the one we didn't talk about, which we should talk about when it comes to SEC and being dominant, it's up front. Florida's one of the, if not best, the offensive line in SEC. You bring back Slaughter, who's the best center in college football. You bring out multiple starters on up front. And if DJ Lagway is healthy, that's when you start to take off and a guy who can trust him up front. But the question for me, for Florida on defense, do you have the depth? Do you have the rotation week in and week out to come and bring it every Saturday? We'll see.
And for the record, I had DJ Lagway at 4th on my top returning quarterback. So I'm still very, very bullish. But I do want to see him work through this fall camp coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not saying that Florida's got to have the best defense of all time or we're going to see Major Rights hats back there knocking people out in big games, even though I would love to go back and watch that defense. It's can they just be good enough if the offense is cooking to have some semblance of balance, right? Because balance is what keeps you on the beam. That's going to get you where you need to go. So just an update, we have Tennessee at 8, A&M at 7, Florida at 6, Blaine at 5. I want to go to you here. What do you, because this is where it's going to get thick, bro.
I got South Carolina.
I think that's...
And I had him at 6.
I got South Carolina. I mean, obviously, Lenore Sellers, he's apparently the next Cam Newton, which I don't think so, but he's pretty damn close. You have Dylan Stewart at edge. He's an absolute monster. He's going to be a first-round pick. But I just still don't know if that's enough to get South Carolina over the hump. There's so many other things that come into this team. Like, can you block for Lenore's? I know he's a running quarterback. Like, I get it. He can get out of a lot. But still, even if he's multi-dual, which he is, you have to be able to block from him. And he lost a lot of production on that defense. I do think you have two of the best players in the SEC in Lenore Stewart and Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart on the edge. But can that whole team come together? I think those two guys can take you very far, but I just don't know if the rest of the roster is up to par.
Well, and don't forget about Nicholas Harbor, too, who I think could go run for the United States
he's a track guy.
Tomorrow. And I don't know. I think he's got a lot of football in him. I mean, JD, the knock for South Carolina and what has held them back. I mean, you look at last year. You look at Kennard on the defensive line, Dylan Stewart as a freshman. They had some other pieces. It's the offensive line. Good Rancher's commitment to American sourcing doesn't just protect you from unknown imports, but it also guards you against unpredictable prices at the grocery store as tariffs go into effect. Get $40 off with our code BOOSTER, plus free meat for life at goodranchers.com. Because did you know that over 85% of grass-fed beef sold in U.S. stores is imported? Good Ranchers is tariff-proof. Our 100% American supply chain protects you from unstable prices and gives you confidence in the meat you buy and the price you pay. 100% American sourced. Every cut of beef, chicken, pork is born, raised, and harvested right here from local farms in the USA, so you can support American ranchers while knowing exactly where your meat comes from. Then, it's delivered right to your door for the ultimate convenience. No antibiotics ever, no added hormones, no seed oils, just one simple ingredient that you can read, and that's meat. Whereas imported meat can be unpredictable because they have different safety and quality standards. So get $40 off with our code BOOSTER, plus free meat for life at goodranchers.com. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. Will this offensive line be the one that allows South Carolina to take that kind of final step? Because, guys, even with what they had last year up front on the offensive line, they almost made the college football playoffs. So it's not like they're way far away. Yeah. Is that offensive line good enough this year to put them in a position to make the college football playoffs?
I think it's what Blaine just said. I think it's the combo of that plus Lenore Sellers. Yeah. Like, I think his maturation and him being able to get the ball out quicker. I mean, Cone, you know where to go with the football a half step quicker than he did a year ago. Like, that's going to help those big dudes out up front. I'm worried a little bit about what they lost in Rocket Sanders last year. Mm-hmm. He was such a tone setter, such a nice compliment to what Sellers was in the run game. So I've bought all the Lenore Sellers stock I can find. I haven't bought the action figure, but I looked at it. It's like $100 online. You get like a signature with it. So like there's something to be looked at there. I love South Carolina.
They got that face
I love
on
it.
kid.
They
though.
added the back, yeah.
The Utah State kid.
I think
Yeah.
they're trying to get him eligible, right?
Right?
I know
Yeah,
that
I
was a
believe they're
big
working on that
thing.
right
I haven't seen an update of that, but he's a hell of a
They
back.
were aggressive in the portal on offensive line, linebacker, and then they added him at running back.
Yeah,
so.
because I mean that was kind of has been the bugaboo since Shane's been there. Remember, they added a bunch of G5 guys on the offensive line a couple years ago, and that didn't work out very well for him. So just like anything, line of scrimmage, that's where it's going to matter. So we're good on South Carolina at 5.
Absolutely.
All right, that brings us to the top 4, fellas. And I think we got a good idea who the 4 are going to be. It's just where they're going to be. So I'm going to go to myself. I'm going to go to myself here. Okay, and to me at 4, guys, I'm going to go Alabama. I'm going to go Bama at 4. Defensively, and it could be the perfect situation where you have and I could say something similar about Oklahoma, but the rosters are different. In where Kalen DeBoer is an offensive coach, you bring back Ryan Grubb, but Alabama's defense, especially if Ty Simpson struggles early, I think can keep them in a lot of games and win them games. We'll see how Florida State is week 1.
Yeah.
But I look at Bama at 4 because we got Texas, Georgia, and LSU. Those are the two that we're going to be talking about. So Bama at 4 on that list. Am I crazy to have them there? Because Blaine brought up a point before we started. This is one of the years going in where a lot of casual fans don't know as many Alabama players as they have in the past.
It's wild. It's a wild world to enter into college football and not have Alabama in a lot of people's minds as a tier 1 team in college football. With what you're saying, though, returning a lot of a top 10 defense from a year ago, Kalen DeBoer majors on the offensive side, gets the Batman to his Batman and Ryan Grubb, and maybe has a quarterback that can throw the ball consistently downfield, and one of the best receiver units in America, I think, with Horton from Miami, Ryan Williams, from Bernard. Like, they're stacked. Like, I think Alabama is a plus at quarterback away from being a national title contender, and they're going to be 4th on our SEC list, which I don't think is nuts.
Well, Ty Simpson, Cone, we talked about this. Who do we know more about? Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton. We know Nuss. All right, we got a pretty good idea what the Nuss bus is. But who do we know more about? Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton, or Arch Manning. I mean, which one of those 3? Where do you put Ty Simpson on that list, man?
I mean, it's hard to tell, but I tell you what, I respect the guy for sitting behind Jalen Monroe, biding his time, and everything out of the Alabama camp. And look, we have a lot of friends on that staff over there. They say great things about him. Now, that's pretty typical for coaches to say great things coming out of spring practice. But I'm hoping the best for him. My list got thrown off a little bit here because I didn't have Florida in the top 8. So, I was at LSU at 5 and then Oklahoma at 4. So I don't know what we're going to do with Oklahoma.
Okay. I've been
the best quarterback in the transfer.
I like that.
I had Oklahoma in my top 8 too. I'm just and
we're running out of room.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to. I'm going to go ahead and tell you they're not going to make this top 4. I actually personally believe. I think Oklahoma has as good of a chance to make the playoff as Texas, but people think I'm crazy saying that. Now, you look at some of these top 25s, and again, we're not scheduling or factoring in the schedule here. The Oklahoma schedule is kind of brutal. But Blaine, with Bama at 4, how do you feel about that?
That's fine. I'm fine with that. With the talent they have running around on both sides of the ball, Bama's going to compete. It's going to come down to the quarterback position. Is Ty the guy that Kalen DeBoer thinks that can come in and be different? Look, Jalen Monroe, he's at the Seahawks right now. Might end up having a great career, but that wasn't the fit for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. Yep. Ty Simpson, what I've been hearing, is the fit that they want. I mean, look at the defense. Look at the guys they have.
Look at the offensive line.
The offensive line. I mean, the receiving core is absolutely nasty. And maybe it's good for Alabama. This might sound crazy. Maybe it's good for Alabama not just having all their names in the lights and all the expectations that you get from a Nick Saban used to coach football team, kind of under the radar guys with chips on their shoulder and something to prove. I know it's a different feeling for Alabama fans, but maybe it's something they need, and maybe that can get them to the top.
Well, to your point, you don't have to manufacture a chip on the shoulder now as opposed to in the past where Nick Saban was having to do mental gymnastics and take you to some camp.
Well, you can't wear chains anymore. You got to show up to workouts on time, so that's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start for Kalen DeBoer. All right, guys, top 3. All right, JD, I'll start with you. Who do you have at 3? Because I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I got Texas at 3.
Wow, you got Texas at 3.
Mm-hmm. I got Texas at 3. Because listen, I'm a little worried about the secondary. Look, Colin Simmons, dog. Anthony Hill Jr., dog.
Yep.
I think Arch Manning, there's no way he can really live up to the hype. He's going to take his lumps. I'm a little worried about that secondary.
Okay.
I know a great way to hide an average secondary, and I'm not saying they're going to end up being average, but early in the year, you're going to have to figure it out, learn how to play with each other. I know you can mask it with a really good front 7, but, you go to Ohio State.
Yeah.
First week,
yeah.
You're going to see some creatures running around there. I don't know, man. I'm not 100% sold on Texas being the big bad dog here with these three. I'm going Texas at 3. Who do you have at 3?
We'll go LSU at 3.
Okay.
I love LSU.
I get it.
I love the portal class. I love Nuss. I want to see it all come together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's been a lot of years where we look at LSU on paper and feel awesome and say, oh, Neighbors, Brian Tom, Jaden Daniels coming after another year, Mike Denbrock's system. I'm rewinding the tape back to his second year. I want to see it all come together. I want to see the unquantifiables for LSU translate. Because on paper, I think they're probably as good as most teams in the SEC. I think you're not crazy put them at 1 on this list. I want to see it all come together.
Blaine, where are you at with it?
I have Texas.
You have Texas there,
3,
too?
because the 3 teams I look at, and I do think from an overall talent standpoint, you could somewhat put Georgia maybe a little on top, but LSU number 1 in portal, right? And they have a quarterback that's proven. Nussmeier, without a run game, without a defense.
Which I like Caden. I think he's good back.
Yeah, I do too. But Nussmeier has proven that he can be the number 1 pick walking into this draft this year. So right now, Texas, look, Arch Manning's got to prove it to me. I know your last name.
I'm with you.
I know your last name's Manning. I know that carries a lot of weight, but I didn't see enough last year. And I remember before even last year where people were critical of his high school tape. Extremely critical about the athletes he was playing against and some of the packages he came in for Texas. He looked okay, but I don't think Quinn Ewers gets enough credit for what he did at Texas, taken to the playoffs multiple years. So one thing I can trust is Texas is going to be a damn good football team. They lost key positions at key spots, and I know that. But I just don't think Arch Manning, I don't know enough yet about Arch to put them at 1.
All right, Coney, we have 2 Texas.
Well, I had LSU at 5, so naturally the next one to bump up would be LSU. But everything you just said about Arch Manning needing to prove himself, the same could be said about Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. I mean, how much do we really know? We were having that conversation. So I just wonder if a lot of this around the country is just a backlash to the hype that's coming out about Arch Manning. Meaning that if you flipped Gunnar Stockton and Arch Manning and put Arch at Georgia right now with the roster that they have, and you put Gunnar Stockton at Texas, who we didn't really know much about, but he had come in relief of, say, Quinn Ewers when he got hurt instead of Arch coming in, would we be saying the same thing? Would there just be a backlash to Georgia right now and saying, no, Arch Manning at Georgia has to prove himself, but the kid Gunnar Stockton at Texas, we believe in more?
Well, that's what makes this argument so fascinating is becoming the similarities. All right, I'm just going to throw the tiebreaker. We're going to put Texas at 3. I know Texas fans are going to be pissed off at that. But we'll see with LSU. You add Berrien Brown to it, wide receiver. You look at what they brought into the portal, not just at the skill position, but obviously at the edge, bringing in
Patrick Payton,
bringing in the offensive lineman.
Shout out Whit Weeks.
The interior offensive lineman there. All right, so 2, we're down to Georgia and LSU. Okay, Georgia and LSU. Where do you fall, Georgia?
I'm going Georgia.
At 2?
Yeah. And look, I think Zachariah Branch is going to be a great player. I think Noah Thomas. I mean, it's so weird for me to watch a Georgia team last year that skill positions weren't that good. Weren't that good. I'm used to Georgia this top to bottom, especially at the skill positions, being extremely good. And you come into the Gunnar Stockton. I love what Georgia did in the portal, going to get guys, especially on defense. But I'm not going to get in the business of doubting a Kirby Smart coach football team. I think Gunnar. The reason I'm putting Georgia at 2nd and Texas at 3rd, I think Georgia's skill position is better than Texas.
Okay.
So I think that's going to help out Gunnar Stockton more. It's going to help out Arch Manning. So I think Georgia's 2. It's going to be interesting to watch Gunnar and see how he grows from last year in the spots that he got put in.
Georgia, LSU, Coney.
Well, I'm running into a situation where I had LSU at 5, so it's just going to keep being the next spot available, I guess, which would put LSU at 2 and Georgia at 1.
Do we?
I had Texas at 1.
You
I
had Texas at 1
as well.
But again,
Okay.
you could make a great argument for Texas at 1.
Sure.
Sure. That's what makes it interesting.
Mostly because Steve Sarkisian is making me believe in him.
That's my
the way that he came in there and made it a priority at first to get the culture handled, and then has shown he's been able to reload these classes. I mean, a year ago we were looking, well, all these guys went to the NFL. Is Steve Sarkisian going to really start reloading these classes the way that Nick Saban was, who he's a protege under Nick Saban? Well, he's kind of doing that. I mean, this year's NFL class was loaded with Texas players again, and now I'm looking at the 2026 mock drafts are all loaded with Texas players as well. So I guess the question is, how good can Texas be even if Arch Manning isn't a superstar?
I look at last year, and after the Michigan game, was there ever a spot outside of the 4th down play with Arizona State where you're like, hey, Quinn Ewers went out and won Texas that game? Now, I know the offensive line, they're replacing a lot up front. There's going to be some guys that are less proven they feel good about because they've had game experience, but less proven. To me, I'm like, man, Quinn Ewers with half an oblique is out there, slinging it around, and did enough for Texas to be successful and be a play away from pushing Ohio State to overtime. So I'm like, can Arch Manning do what Quinn Ewers did a year ago? I think so. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not quite
And he has
as
a
worried
running
about Arch.
element, too.
Running element, the defense should be good. So all those things are the reason why I have Texas number 1 in the SEC and all of America. But for the sake of this conversation, if it's between LSU and Georgia, I'd put LSU in that 2 spot.
You put LSU in the 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put Georgia at the 2 as well.
Okay.
Glenn, I agree with you. So, guys, I mean, that only leaves LSU at 1. I mean,
So it was really just a Jake power rank.
no, that's not true. It's just somebody's got to break the tie at the end. We can flip them if y'all want. I just, again, when you look at the order, it's so funny that the top 4 teams, number 1 as we have it, LSU with Nuss, the returning quarterback. 2, brand new guy. 3, brand new guy. 4, brand new guy. 5, 6, and 7 all have returning quarterbacks. In Lenore Sellers, South Carolina, DJ Lagway at Florida, then Marcel Reed for A&M at 7. It's it'll change obviously once we do. We factor in the schedule and we see what happens in fall camp. Who wins what job? It's going to be interesting. So we all have different answers at the end of the day, and I think that's what makes it fun, and that's what's going to make this year in the SEC fun.
And I think if you were to fast forward the tape there and say who has the best chance to make a run in the playoff, like if Nussmeier's hot and LSU gets a favorable draw like Penn State did a year ago.
And they can tackle somebody?
I mean, Brian Kelly is going to be, the way they talk about him right now in Baton Rouge in a negative light, he will be carried in on a royal throne throughout the streets of Baton Rouge if they win a national
Who do you think needs to
championship.
make the playoffs more, Brian Kelly or Kalen DeBoer?
I think Brian Kelly.
I agree.
I think Brian
I
Kelly.
agree with you too, because it's still early with DeBoer, but we know how Alabama fans are. But JD, thanks so
time.
much, brother,
Appreciate it, fellas.
for joining us. JD PicKell from On3 Sports. Tell everybody where they can find you on social.
Yeah, man, you can find me at JD PicKell on calling it X or Twitter or whatever
Whatever it
we're
is
calling it
today.
right now. You can find me there. You can find me the same handle on Instagram. But boys, this is a blast, man. I appreciate
Oh,
y'all.
we gotta get
thanks
you
for
back
coming
in.
by,
Appreciate
man.
y'all,
We
man.
got to have you back. In the comments, let us know where are we right, where are we wrong. I'm sure everybody agrees at the end of the day. But make sure you keep subscribing, hit that like button, and like the chances of this being the same order by the time we get to kickoff. We're going. Gone.